Yes. Kwabena Nketia is right now a retired professor of the University of Ghana. But I started some years ago at Ashanti Mampong, my hometown, where I grew up. And my parents were non-literate. So that meant that I had the opportunity of playing with other children, learning children's songs, dancing, and so forth. Until somehow at age 7, they decided I also should go to school because they saw other children going to school. We lived in Fijazi, that is where they had their shop, but we come from Mampong. So my mother went to see my grandmother, who had become Christian, and she managed to enroll me in class 1, although you begin at age 6, but I was age 7, so it was an advantage because I was a little more mature than those I met at age 6. So that meant I was able to jump one class because I could join the next class. So that was how I began as a child of non-literate parents. And I went on like that until I got to middle school, and then I had to be baptized, because I was in a Christian school, and I couldn't really go on like that. But that point of my baptism was very important because then it changed my future. Because then I was Christian and I could prepare to go to Prof Training College and all the rest of it. And that was the miracle. But the background I had in the tradition as a non-literate child was very helpful because I continued. Even when I went to school, I had so many grandmothers and so forth. I was going to them. So I kept my traditional knowledge side by side with the other knowledge I acquired in school. And that helped very much when I became interested in the creative use of my background, in terms of music, in terms of writing, and so forth and so on. If you go to school, you are forced to learn to write and so forth. I did not really think about the topics as something I was selecting. They were topics in the school, and I took them because I was in school. But I found them interesting, and from there, to junior school, then to senior school, then at 5, baptism, then and so forth. But my teachers were also encouraging me. I found that they were interested in what I was doing right from my infancy. And so they encouraged me to sit for the entrance examination to a Prof Training College and so forth. And of course, I was the second in the whole of Ghana. I didn't know I was competing anyway. I'm mentioning this. But at that time also I had to be baptized before getting that. But because I was the second, I got entry to a Prof Training College. And that again changed my life. But before I went to college, I saw students from a Prof Training College who had come to Mampong on the holidays. And what attracted me was their suit. White trousers and blue suit, and they give a performance Sunday evening service, and they were sing kru 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 he he kru he kru he kru 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 he. And I looked at them and I said, I will go to this college. So that was my ambition, and of course I sat for the entrance exam. Again, I was very lucky. I was the second in the whole of Ghana. So I got a chance to go to a Kropom. And a Kropom made the big difference. Starting at the training college, learning all sorts of things. Learning to play the harmonium because I was attracted to it. Learning my language and so forth. Everything seemed together. And so 4 years in the training college was a really good starting point because I was fascinated by the music. Emu, whose music I had heard, and was therefore interested in seeing him, had left the college. He had been dismissed for being too African, wearing clothes and so forth. And somebody else, Reverend Danso, had replaced him. But he had learned from him, so I could learn some of the things that I did also from him. And that really gave me a very good footing, at the college. Yes, well, I knew about him. I was anxious to meet him, but 4 years at the college, he wasn't there. Because when he was sacked by Kropon, he got another place at Achimota. And there he got a scholarship and went to England to study for 3 years. So I was imitating bits of Emu, from Danso, not knowing Emu himself. But when Emu came back from, got a scholarship 3 years and came back, he also discovered that there was a little boy in Akropo who was musical. And I think his curiosity was like that. He could not wait. As soon as he came back and we got this news, he came to Akropo and to greet us at the morning service. And I was curious to see this man. He had tied some beads on his left hand and had tied a handkerchief, something, the covering. And then when he spoke, he pulled the handkerchief to show us what his people gave to him as welcome from that day. There were certain interesting things about him. But I was playing the harmonium for the morning service. And I think he had heard about me from his relations. So immediately he finished his speech, he came to me where I was on the piano and said, "Young man, I gather you are interested in music." And I beamed with a smile and I said, "Yes." And he said, "Don't copy my music. Go to the traditional people and learn from them, because this is how I came to write my music." That was a big statement. And I belong to traditional people. My parents were non-literate and so forth. And I obeyed his instructions. And I knew I was going to learn from them. We got exercise books, paper, pencil, everything. And then I set out, I went to my hometown. Of course, being a child of non-literate parents, I was already playing with other children and singing traditional songs. But I went to one of my grandmothers, our system. Your mother's sisters and so forth are all your relations. And I told this woman I wanted to learn Adwa songs. And I had my notebook and everything. I explained exactly what I wanted to learn. And she thought about it and then fixed the time. She would teach me 5 or 6 songs at each setting. And she would first sing the song right through and then sing it line by line. And I had learned how to write tree, so I could write down the text. After writing down the text, she would say, "Read it to me." She was non-literate, but very, very clever. So I would read, and she would check any words I had written wrongly. after that, we'll sing the song together. I'll learn it from her, you know. And so we did that for each song. But the thing that really helped me was that she was also eloquent about certain things. For example, she told me, this is Ofre. When I sing the song Ofre, then the chorus, Nisho, so call and response. And then she will say, when they are singing the song, sometimes I will interrupt them. I will sing on top. I will interrupt them and say something, so they will stop, and I will sing what I want, and then they will come in. That is in Tumu. But also when they are singing, sometimes I can sing on top of the chorus. This is in Tuswo.
Wow.
You see, she was non-literate, but very good sensitivity. And she was teaching me these things. I didn't know at that time that these were important theoretical things that a person needed to know. But anyway, that's one part of her story. The other thing is that after I've learned 5 or 6 or 7 songs, you'll say, we'll continue tomorrow. I'm going to sleep and think about the next songs. In other words, she had a repertoire, unwritten, non-literate, but she knew what she had selected to teach me in the first day. Then when you go, she will continue. And then now and then she will tell me, you know, these songs are the songs for the ordinary people, but we also have songs for the chiefs. Every chief who comes to raid has a set of songs for him. So I was introduced to the king list. I always talk about her because I was so impressed with what she did, how she taught me. And even though I went through the school process, I could still see how she would have excelled if she had had the chance of going to school the way I did. But, and her lessons were very important, you know, because they helped me to organize my thoughts. And when I started to continue the research, I knew what questions to ask and so forth whenever I did. But the other thing about her, I must tell her story because I think it will inspire you, you know, to respect some of the old people who have a lot of things in their mind they can share, but we only see them as old people, you know, and they are musing and turning the things in their head and not sharing with little children. But fortunately, she did. And another thing I learned from her was that they will create not only songs for the chiefs, but sometimes they will create a song for individuals. And she gave me one instance where the Mamputuku had a civic problem, and some people left the town and settled somewhere and came back. So those who left, I think they were away for 7 years or so. When they came back, the leader of the group, you know, thought she would be given a position, and she wasn't. So he was a little peeved by this. But she went to my grandmother and composed a song and asked her to learn it and teach the Adua people. Yei ma yo Yahweh, they are praising me. You know, I took my people over there and brought them back. And this is my way. And then, so I learned a little bit about how they compose music. So I have various stories I could tell about her, but I think this is enough to show how non-literate people who carry our traditions in their head store the materials and could share them with us if we approach them and ask them, you know, what they know and so forth and so on. And in addition to what they did, the people in the town also created their own music and dance. And to be a member of the community, you must know how to sing and must know how to dance. And you enjoy this with your group and so forth. Even when we were little children, we had our own little things that we would do. Siosi, stone throwing. Siosi, set you, don't set your mama for good. Obo si mi amesu, obo abedre si mi amesu. Asa pada pesu pago. Example be, I am away. I sample baby, so forth. So these were children passing on the stone, you know. So there are things in the community that are also organized, passed on from generation to generation. There is a system. We should not think that traditional society is just haphazard, well organized. And there are things they do, that they learn, that they teach the other people informally, and so on. Everything that I did my research into showed that even mourning people or dead people, you had delegates for particular families and so forth and so on. Things were very orderly. So that was something I learned from my grandmother, and which I pursued even as an academic, because if you follow that, you are able to understand the system in the traditional society. Now, when you understand your traditional system, then you know how to move from there into the present era of global things and so forth and so on. So the traditional foundation is very important. It is so in every culture, and it is the privilege of various generations to build on the past experience of previous generations. Colonialism interrupted this at some point, but those who were not in touch with the colonial thing kept the traditions. And so we still have a lot of our traditional things still intact, fortunately. And our job is to go and learn those traditions so we can use them in contemporary contexts. Learn how they did it so we can do similar things, and maybe do a little more than they did and so forth. That is the challenge. Well, some people are following the tradition. Others, of course, are attracted by new things from elsewhere. It is to be expected. And there are people who are looking at both the tradition and the new things and finding out how they could use the tradition in a new way. Recreating your traditions is a very important part of history. So even if you look at the traditional societies themselves, just as I was saying, whenever you had a new chief, you had also a new repertoire. It means creativity or something that goes on. And each generation learns how to create. So when we go to school, we are a little cut off from the process, but we can go back to our people and learn from them and continue. Let me find out if the international market wants it. You can't package something and give it to people who don't like it. But of course, people in the international market are curious. Curiosity, what are they doing? How do they do it? So they become interested. But what I'm interested in is not the international market. How our old people, young people, become interested in our tradition and learn the traditions so they can build on it. Every society builds on the experience of its forebears. And that is the big challenge for those of us in Ghana. those in schools, those who are in school and so forth, because you can be distracted by the things from outside and forget your own, and forget that when you also create yours and develop it, other people will be interested, and they will also be interested in looking at your music. Mm-hmm. So that challenge is something we need to look at. Of course, now we are excited by the whole world, by things coming from here and there and so forth, and it is good. But at the same time, if you sit back and look at your own things, you know what to pick, what to select, how to continue your own thing without defacing it and so forth and so on. And that is the challenge for the youth, who come to the world and find themselves suddenly bombarded by things from outside, more so than the inside things, because the things from outside are carried by terrible machines and so forth. You cannot avoid them.